nice. I am Kim Kral. I am reporting to you not live from my closet. Hi, everybody. Hi. I have had an eventful week. I have a lot to tell you. First of all, right now, so you guys know Henry, obviously. Henry is my cat, my soulmate, my best friend. So he's a hungry fella all the time, right? He's just, I mean, I've read that cats are like that. Like if they don't have food in their dish, they're like, oh my God, I'm going to die. But I don't think so. My neighbor watches my cat and she's like, wait, what do you do? And so I leave the empty wet can out next to Lucy's full food bowl so he can lick the insides of it. And I know a lot of people are like, well, when he cut his mouth, no, you morons. It's not I don't leave the top part. I throw that away. But if I don't leave the can out. So my neighbor, she was like, why do you do that? And I was like, look, if I don't do it, this is what Henry will do. Henry will, he will wait until I'm gone. Then he'll grab the recycle bag, which is like a paper bag. Like I just have like a little paper bag in my kitchen that I just like throw bottles and cans and shit in. And he'll grab that. He'll drag it all the way to my bedroom, all the way up on my bed, rip it open, and then lick the inside of all of it. And I'm like, you should really, I mean, like take a hard look at yourself. Like you should be, I don't think he should be ashamed. I think he should be proud of who he is. But he's sitting next to me right now, and I don't feed him. I feed him at specific times, just because of his like thyroid stuff, and I just want to make sure his weight stays under control, even though it's not. But he's just a big boy, right? But he's sitting next to me, and he's going to town on this can, and it's so loud, and it's so cute. I love this animal so much, you guys. Wow. All right. So I got so much. So I did go to San Diego. We'll get to that first. Let's get to that. I went to San Diego, and Seattle has ghosted again. And people tell you who they are or show you who they are the first time, just believe them. People, unless they're like doing like I mean, like the second time I gave him a chance, like this whole thing started in 2019, and then in 2020 he left, and then in 2021 he came back and was like, promised that he had done all this work and had changed and he wasn't the way he was before. And so I was like, okay, well, I've changed too, and I still have these feelings for you. And so I don't fault myself for that one, because it's like, well, I mean, people do change. And, for a little bit, he did seem like he changed until it was like, no, this is literally the same guy. It's literally the same guy. If you've read my book, he's the chapter that's I'm a fraud. And that, like, I didn't add the shit that happened the second go around just because I was like, oh, it's too complicated and I, whatever. But when I reread the chapter, it was like, oh my God, it's literally the same. Like, I'm scared and I need space and whatever. So I knew, so like I went to go visit, I went to San Diego. I think, I can't remember exactly how far I had told you guys, but I thought, honestly, I thought I would get to San Diego and I would just hear from him either way. I thought like adult people would just be like, look, I've thought about it, and I just don't think it's good for me to see you just like honest, you know what I mean? Or if he's like, I don't know, like if honesty, whatever, right? Just like, and it's my, and it's not my fault, but it's also like, this guy has literally shown you who he is 6 billion times. Fool me once, no, or his fault. Fool me twice, kind of still his fault because he had changed a little bit, but also sort of my fault. Now it's not like the third time, fourth time. I don't know. But so I was already going to go, and I'm really grateful I went because, well, I had it in my head that I was going to go, and then, to meet him. And then I text my buddy Ali and his wife and was like, I may come down. And they're like, yeah, come down. And then I was like, my night plans canceled, or my night plans look like they're going to cancel. And he was like, come down anyway. And it was just like, those people in your life that no matter how much time has passed, it feels like no time has passed at all. And they not only that, but they're like home, and they're like, being around them just feels healing and loving. And that's who Ollie and his wife are to me. And I got to hang out with his baby, who is just so fucking cute. He's just a cute, the babies that kind of look like old men, like they look like he kind of looks like he looks like a cute old man, but not an old man. You know what I mean? I don't know. He's so fucking cute. But But I got to San Diego and I honestly thought that either he would be like, "All right, are you here? Let's meet." And then I haven't heard anything from him. I haven't heard anything from him. Not a word. Not a fucking word. The last thing I wrote to him was like, "Hey, I was just like, hey, yo, I text my buddy and he's really excited about me coming down and we both have a rare free day. So I'm coming down either way. If you want to see me, I would love that. If not, like, please let me know." And fucking crickets. Like, what kind of person? What kind of person? And so I had some wine and gin and tonics with Ollie and Jess, and that's his wife. And I love gin and tonics, by the way. That may be the new drink. That might be the new drink of choice. I love them, but I had a lot of them, and we went to bed. And at 5 in the morning, I woke up very mad. And I don't regret writing this, but like the only thing I regret is that I wish I would have written more. I finally was just like, "You're an asshole." Like, I was just like, "Dude, you know you're crazy, right?" Like, we're both on the same page that you're out of your mind. And I was just like, "Have a safe flight, asshole." Have a safe flight, asshole, which is so funny to me. Like, just have a safe flight, asshole. And then, I was just like, "You think I would be used to your disappearing act by now?" And honestly, like, I thought that I would be much more devastated. I thought that I would be like another heartbreak from this man, but instead it was like it wasn't the closure I wanted, but it was the closure I needed. Like, I'm not going to block him. I'm not gonna text him again. If he I know I'll hear from him in 8 months. I know I will. And I just it will never talk to him again. Ever again. I either he is the biggest asshole of all time, which I don't believe because I did get to know him pretty well, or as well as one can, I guess. Um, I don't think he's the biggest asshole of all time. I think he is battling some true demons. I like I mean, but I and like that's the other thing. Like, I can't have empathy for him right now. I have to be angry because for the last like 2 years it's fucking been, I'll have empathy for him. And I have a problem. One of my defects of character is I confuse love and pity. And I tend to love people I can pity and rescue. And so for the last couple of years, every time he comes with this like, "Oh, I'm afraid of I'm afraid," or whatever, or this like, or his friend is like, "I don't know, I know that he's just working through it, he's avoidant," like all this, like it's like, oh, then I'm like, oh, I have empathy and I get it, I'm fucked up too. And I'm like, you know what, no, I have to be angry now and I have to just like write him off as he's a fucking asshole. Like, anybody who would do this, like, it's not like he had to do it to my face. All he had to do is text me and be like, "Look, I don't want to see you." You know what I mean? Like, he could have written that the very first night. And it's just it's wild. But like, I just love "Have a nice flight, asshole." I think that might be the title of this episode. Um, but it's the closure I feel is not what I had expected. I expected to be just like, because like when I had talked to him last week, I don't know, a week and a half ago, and he said that he was never moving to LA, I was so sad because it was just like, oh, so this will never be. And now I'm like, "Oh, thank God, this will never be." It's I don't know, it's a new feeling. I am also doing a lot of, like, boundary setting with other people. I told one of my suitors, he's not a suitor, but told one of my guys I sleep with. That's if you want to hear the whole story, I have a now exclusive on Patreon once a month podcast called Sexual Revolution, but I did end it with one of them. And not for, I mean, like, we're friends and we're friendly and we've been texting, we're texting, we're still friends or whatever, but like, it just the sex part was just getting messy, not like the literal sex part. Like, we weren't using like food and oils and stuff. Sorry, I don't know if anybody else went there. But it was like getting too complicated. And I was like, oh, okay, this all like even 3 months ago, Kim would have been like, well, maybe it'll work out, or maybe he'll change, or maybe he'll just change his mind, or like be different, or be what I want. And current Kim is like, no, when people tell you who they are, believe them. And it doesn't mean this guy is lovely. I mean, we're friends, like we were like, yeah, now we got to be actual like friends with all the without the sex complications. Not that that adds complications, but in this particular instant, it was just a little too hairy for me. Um, But like I've just been making a lot of things like that. Like this weekend is my uncle's funeral, and I have been feeling so much anxiety around it, like a wild amount of anxiety. Like, and the good news is what I am doing is, oh my god, if I hit this fucking microphone again, I still have to get a cord. You know when you have something on your like you're like, oh, I have to do that, but you don't think about it until you're back using it again. You know what I mean? Like I don't think about this foreign cord, Jesus, until I am in here recording, and then I'm like, fuck, I need to do that. And then the second I walk out of here, I completely forget about it. Completely. Even when I'm editing, and because I have to like on the Zoom. I Zoom record myself, right? So the microphone goes in there and then I put it up on YouTube. I still have to like go through on that and like find where the microphone plugged out and like cut that out. And in that moment, I'm still not like, oh, I should probably get a new cord. Anyway, that's not but so I'm feeling a wild amount of anxiety, and there's some good stuff that's happening from it. I'm taking care of myself. I think, even a couple of months ago, Kim, still like, I'm a fucking work in progress. I think I still would have, when I was feeling the amount of anxiety I'm feeling right now about this weekend, I would be like, all right, well, I'm going to go to the bar. I will call this dude I'm sleeping with. Maybe we'll get drunk and have sex. I will go to the bar. I will hit on the bartender that is terrible. You know what I like, just like like inner drugstore shit. And I've explained what the inner drugstore is a lot. A lot. If you haven't figured it out by now, I'm just kidding. But I've explained it a few times. It's basically the inner drugstore is when you do stuff that isn't healthy for you because you want to hurt your own feelings. You know what I mean? Like when like I don't know. I mean, I know I'm not the only one who does this, but like you'll like spin out and all of a sudden you'll have made up a whole story that so and so doesn't like you because of X, Y, and Z. And then I have to pause and be like, oh my God, you literally made that up. You literally made that up to hurt your own feelings. And that's like this week with all of my anxiety, I've just been like, no, I'm just going to continue taking care of myself as, in healthy ways, not blow off steam ways, but in healthy ways, feel these feelings, meditate, do some yoga, hang out with healthy people, go to meetings, like all that stuff. Cause my anxiety is it's I mean, going to Denver is always a tough time. God, I hate that place. Every time I get there, I'm like, I land and I literally go, hello, you son of a bitch. I can't wait till I get out of you. And it sucks because Denver is such a cool fucking city. It's never, I think it's just not a place for me. It's not the place, but so this weekend is my uncle's funeral, and I leave Friday. I literally leave Friday, come back Sunday morning, like Sunday afternoon. Like it's like a in and out. Um, and I've been having a lot of anxiety. As I said, my cousin that no one has talked to or seen in like 12 years. We figured it out. Like it's been 12 years. My grandma died 12 years ago in February, and that's literally the last time most of us have seen. Like the only, except for her parents, and I guess her parent hasn't seen her. Her parents haven't seen her in who knows how long. And that's the thing. I don't know if you guys have this with your families, but I think everyone I know who has really dysfunctional families and like generational dysfunction, they're like, yeah, that's exactly what our family is. My family is like a really bad game of telephone, like where it's like my cousin that no one's seen in 12 years lives in Montana. No, she doesn't live in Montana, but she lives in Minnesota, Idaho, Iowa, or Illinois, depending on who you ask. And because it's just like you guys remember the game of telephone when you were a kid, there was like this circle and someone would whisper in, like the first person would whisper in the second person's ear like something, and then they would whisper in the next person's ear, and so on until it went around the circle, and then the last person would say out loud what they heard, and it was never ever the same thing the first person said. And that's like, what a wild, weird, like message to give to kids, because that's literally how life is. Like it's like by the time like someone says something about me to someone else, and by the time it gets back to me that someone said something to me, it is morphed into a whole other thing. And then you confront that person and you're like, wow, you said that I was X, Y, and Z. And they're like, no, I just said that you don't like toast. You know what I mean? Like it's so my family is like a massive game of telephone. So I don't even know when the last time everyone has seen this girl, but The sleeping arrangements, when we were kids, she wasn't the most. I'm trying to be as a little vague just because like I her mother is one of my favorite people on the planet. She is one of the people, she's my aunt, and she was the reason I went back. Like one of the main reasons why I went back to say goodbye to my dad. And she because of that, my whole life is way different than it would have been had I not. Because all of my family, including my uncle Steve, whose funeral's this weekend, was calling and leaving just like these horrible messages of just like how dare you do this to your father. I laugh at it now because it's just so fucking ludicrous. I can't imagine being a person that is like, how could you do this to your dad? You mean my dad who used to shower with me and put his fingers inside me? That guy? How could I do that to that guy? um and I say it just because and I know it's not ha 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 funny, but it's just so ludicrous to me. It's just so humans, man. But she called and left like a really loving, and that's just who this woman is, my aunt. She called and left like a loving message that was like, this is my perspective. And it wasn't about my dad when she called. It was about, and I hope she does come to the funeral because I would like to tell her thank you for that. I haven't seen her since my dad's funeral, which was like 6 years ago. 6.5 years ago, Jesus Christ. But I'd like to, because like she changed the course of my life, because she showed up with kindness and wasn't like, so I'm purposely being vague about her daughter because I want to show her respect, because her daughter's got some wild shit, man. But she was kind of sketchy when we were kids, like I think got caught like snooping and stealing stuff in our grandma's house, from what I've told. And anyway, so like they're like, she's coming now, and there was a boundary that was set that like people were like, she can't stay in our homes, right? And immediately the boundaries were pushed. Like immediately other family members were like, why can't she? And it's like, well, I already told you, and that's it. That like no is a complete sentence. Like I don't have to explain why I'm not allowing someone to stay in my house at all, ever. I don't give a fuck who they are. And it was met with, and my stuff, because this has nothing to do with me, by the way, this has nothing to do with me. I don't want to pick it up because like I'm like, all right, well, I'll call them and I'll talk to them and I'll like get involved. And I'm like, no, I don't have to pick this up at all. This has nothing to do with me. If I'm asked about it, I'll be like, yeah, she set a boundary. It sounds like it sounds like you're not understanding that, but that's also kind of mean. But just like, yeah, she set a boundary and I respect the boundary, right? Like I want to normalize that somehow in my family, but I don't know if that will ever happen. But I don't know. I've talked about the breaking the generational traumas and cycles, and I saw Denzel Washington was talking about that, and he was like, doing it is not for the weak. Like going home is always really rough because I don't play the generational cycle drama game, and I'm not always the most liked person in the room, which is really exciting. Like I know this is terrible, but like my like first instinct when I heard this long lost cousin was coming, um this long lost cousin, that like, oh my god, and I think I said this last week, where I was like, thank god this trip I will not be the center of, because it's always like I just get everything I do or say. If I say anything about my dad, it's just like, oh my god, what did she say? Like it's very uncomfortable. But now I think everyone's gonna be watching that broad. She may not come now. I have no idea. Um but I also like, I don't have to pick this up. This is literally none of my business. I'm going to go to my uncle's funeral. My uncle was like my father, like not my father, but like like a regular father, like a dad to me. Um, one time, I don't know if I told this story. I say this a lot now. I probably should. I mean, truthfully, even if I went back and re-listened to all the episodes and wrote down what I said, I would never remember at all. I can rewatch the same movie 14 times and not remember the ending each time I watch it. Like that's just how and it's actually lovely, right? Because I get to rewatch movies that I know I like. Um, but yeah, years ago, when my dad was alive and before I had cut him out of my life, I was in Denver, and I wasn't staying with him. He lived in that 1-bedroom apartment, and it was, God, it was so, that place, it was just going into that apartment was just like, I don't know how to describe it, the sexual tension, and that's a weird way to put it with my dad, but if you're sexually abused and you have a dad that felt the way my dad did about me, you know what I like. I didn't have it, but I could feel the room. Like it was just like, and so I didn't stay there. And thank God for Al-Anon years ago, because Al-Anon helped me tell that man that I am not staying in your 1 bedroom apartment. Staying in that big house with you was a nightmare. I'm not staying in a tiny room with you. Like, oh God, one time he asked if I would stay and he promised he'd be, quote, a good little boy. Ask me again why I cut that guy out of my life. You know what I mean? Like he looked at his grown daughter and asked me to spend the night and promised he'd be a good little boy. Wow, this really took a different turn than I thought it was. And I think I've already told you guys that. And it makes me, I'll go back to my Uncle Steve story, but it makes me so angry because one of the family members said about this cousin and how was like, but she's family. And that makes me that sentence makes me so angry because it's like, so what? So like people are like, well, you got to put up with it because it's family. No, I don't. No, I don't. Because she's my dad's sister's kid. Like what? Like I don't have to put up with anything. And they say that about me. They say that they don't believe me about my dad and that but they put up with me because I'm family. And I'm like, fuck your family. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? It's such a like, you, because you're my family doesn't mean you get to treat me however the fuck you please because you're family. Fuck off. You know, like I just like when I heard that, I was just like, it makes me so annoyed. And I'm so grateful that I am so grateful that I am here in LA with my chosen family. And I do have family members I am close to that we have boundaries and love and like they believe me and like, but like, fuck, man, that makes me so, but your family. No, I don't know if anyone needs to hear that today. Cause I know a lot of people like it is like you feel obligated because, well, he's my brother or he's my no. And I know I am a person that's like, oh, I burnt down a bunch of relationships and walked away. But it was like, I mean, with my mother, I couldn't have that lady in my life. My mom was leaving me up to like, wow, this really went, it's like 9 a.m. too. I've been up since like 6. And I'm in the like angry part of grief. I know that like 5 stages of grief are real, but there's also like 7 other ones that they don't talk about. But the anger is real. I've been so angry the last 3 days. And I'm like, why am I so fucking mad? And then I'm like, oh, right, because you're grieving a massive loss. I can't communicate how massive this loss is for me. My Uncle Steve was one of my favorite human beings in my whole life. Man. But so yeah, years ago before I'd cut my father out of my life, he was staying in that 1 bedroom apartment and I was like, yo, let's have dinner. You know, like I was like doing my best to try and have a relationship with my dad that had boundaries and respect. And that was one of the things I wrote to him when I cut him out of my life. I said, you know, man, oh no, that was what I said to him when I emailed him to go back to Nebraska and say goodbye to him. I was like, it's not about the shit you did to me as a kid at all. Like I forgave you for that a long time ago. That's not why I've been out of your life. You just would never respect boundaries. You never respected me. You never respected my boundaries. And so I was trying to have like a healthy relationship with a very unhealthy person. My father was a very, very sick man, obviously. And so I was, I was like, we'll have dinner. We'll meet at Outback or Black Angus, one of those like chains, but in Colorado, it's sort of a nice night out. You know what I mean? And Littleton, it's like, oh, it's like Red Lobster. Man, I wonder if we'll have a chance to go to Red Lobster. Oh my God, I bet Adrienne will go to Red Lobster with me. That's my cousin that I'm staying with that I'm really close to. Oh, I love Red Lobster. Oh, I love it so much. Yeah, we were going to meet at like Black Angus, right? Or Outback or some shit. And I get there and he's not there and he's not there. And this cell phones were around, but they weren't, I don't even know if my dad had a cell phone yet. Like it was like when like kids had cell phones, but like parents were like still using their landlines. That's how old I am. Cell phones were certainly not something that we like kept in our, like stared at all the time. And that's how long ago this was. I'm not old. I didn't know where he was. So I was like, oh, he's probably at that bar he's always at. So I went to the bar and he and my uncle Steve were at the bar. And I was just like, hey, we were supposed to have dinner. And he's like, and he's drunk. And he's like, I had some drinks with Uncle Steve. And I have this really, really pretty best friend that I was, in 22, I met her. I met her here in LA in 21, and really pretty, like one of the prettiest people you'll see in person. Also heart of gold. And my dad met her a few times and he was like, oh, Steve, oh, you got to see pictures of Sarah. Sarah's so fucking hot. Like, and calling her like he's like she's so sexy. Tell me again, because he's family. Fuck you. Uh, and let me see this. You got to show her. You got to show him a picture. So I had my camera, my big ass like Kodak, right? I pull out my, and you can see the pictures on the thing. It's digital. It's one of the first digitals. So I pull up and I show a pic, and I feel so sad for that girl now because I was so uncomfortable, but I didn't know how to be like, stop, dude. This is my fucking friend, you fucking perv. You know what I mean? Like, instead, like now I would have walked out. Now, I mean, that guy wouldn't have been in my life if he's still alive. But I'm showing Uncle Steve pictures, and my dad is like, no, and drunker and sloppier, and just like, no, show her a better one. This one doesn't do her justice. She's so much hotter, Steve. You got to see this sexy woman. And I think Uncle Steve is looking at the photos and looking at me, and you can tell that like both of us are so uncomfortable. My dad is like, like just gross and like. And finally, my Uncle Steve grabs my camera, turns it off, puts it down, and looks at me, and he goes, "You're both very pretty young women." And like, so like that, those stories like that, I often wonder if I would have been way different if that guy got to be my dad. So this weekend is going to be tough because and I know that's such a weird story, but it was like a story where he sort of had my back, because he could tell how uncomfortable I was. And I believe I cut my dad out shortly afterwards. I know that people are like, well, how come they don't remember that stuff? People remember what they want to remember. But yeah, so going home again. My God, I thought in October. I was like, all right, I'll be home in October, and then I'll see you in 17 years, Denver. But it will be nice to see a lot of my family that I haven't seen in a long time. It'll be nice to, and each time I'm healed now. I know that like 17-minute story, but like also I'm not on solid ground right now, and I don't have to be. Like, the world's on fucking fire. All jobs are getting canceled left and right. Like, I'm like, I feel like it's lockdown, but I don't have unemployment. You know what I mean? Like, COVID cases are wild, and I'm mourning one of the biggest, one of the toughest losses of my life. And so, of course, I'm not on solid ground, but I'm healed now. Like, I've healed my past traumas, and I have boundaries, and I have, I'm not the girl that sat there and showed her dad her sexy friend Sarah that I was, 10, 12 years ago. I am a woman who would have walked out of that fucking bar. And so I'm excited to see family that I haven't seen in a long time. My cousins are doing, Steve's kids, who are like my brother and sister, are doing a cool thing. They're doing rock shirts. They don't want us to wear outfits. They don't want us to wear like dresses. They don't want us to dress up for the funeral. They want everyone to wear rock and roll shirts. I'm wearing a test one right now. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing a Pink Floyd one. I have a Beatles one coming today. And the Pink Floyd one was from Target, so I feel like a lot of people might have this one, but the Beatles one is not. And I think, and it'll go really good with my big pink jacket, which I realized is like a Janis Joplin jacket. So I think that will be even cooler. But like my cousins were just like, I don't know, dad would have been pissed, like, but would have been annoyed if we would have dressed up for this. Like, he wants it to be like a celebration, and so he would have loved the rock and roll. My Aunt Amy, his wife, would have fucking loved that shit too. But it reminded me, so I like keep being like, all right, I'm gonna bring these two options, and then I'm gonna bring a dress just in case, because I like in the back of my mind, I'm sort of like, what if they're like playing a trick on me? Like, what if I show up and they're like, never mind, we're all gonna wear dresses? And I know that that's not the case, but like there's a small part of me, and it's because, all right, so in high school, this is what this reminded me of. In high school, we cheerlead I was a cheerleader in high school, right? And like, if when there was a game day, I don't know if everybody had this at their high school, but if there was a game day, the cheerleaders wore their uniforms to school, which now looking back is just like, Jesus. And I wasn't a popular kid. Like I wasn't a popular high school kid. I was like, I was like the nerdy cheerleader who just like kind of sat in the back. And also it'd be one thing if I was a really good cheerleader and then was kind of nerdy and they all were like, well, she's at least like a good toe touch. She has a good toe touch. No, I told you guys this a while ago that my coach told this teenage girl who happened to be best friends with my cousin, told her that like the only reason why Kim keeps making the squad is because she's nice and we feel sorry for her. How sad. Oh my God. Talk about getting a fucking complex, right? And so like I wasn't a good cheerleader, but we had to wear our uniforms to school. And we also used to like do uniform hair as well. And normally it was like something easy, like half up white ribbon, or ponytail green and gold ribbon. You know what I mean? Like it was never anything complicated. But one time we were all sitting around and we were like, let's play a trick on Nikki. Let's play a trick on Nikki. And we'll tell her on Friday for Friday's game, we're going to do a double French braid. And then she's going to show. I thought about this morning because the rock and roll shirt. I was like, why do I think that they're playing a trick on me? Why on earth would they? What a dumb prank! Like, why would I show up and they'd be like, just kidding, you got to wear a dress, and then I'd be like, all right, I guess take me to the mall. I'll buy a dress. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why I think whatever world, what world would that? But the girls were like, what a dumb prank. They're like, yeah. And then when Nikki shows up and we're all wearing half ponytails, she's going to feel so dumb. Ha! And I remember thinking, well, that's kind of a dumb prank. Like, no one, that's not really that funny. It's not really mean. Like it doesn't have any elements of a prank. It's like but then I also on the flip side was like, thank God they're not doing that to me. But of course they wouldn't do that to me. I wasn't their friend. You only prank friends, you know what I mean? If you're not pranking friends, then you're just being an asshole. But so Friday comes and her hair is double French braided and we show up and we're all like, aha, Nikki, we're wearing half up ponytail. And I'll never forget it because I remember being like, that's what makes you cry? Nikki's just started to cry because she had gotten up at 6 a.m. to double French braid her hair to be at school on time at 8. And now I know how to double French braid my hair. I'm like, what the fuck was Nikki doing for 2 hours? What the fuck? And also, something must have been going on in Nikki's house in order for her to like have a breakdown like that over a double French braid. But then everyone felt really bad. And then that prank never happened again because everyone was like, remember that time that Nikki cried? And that girl and I were like really good friends in elementary school, which is so weird. So she was like, she's unfriended me. And I wonder, because I've talked about her on here before, and I wonder if she listened. I also, there's a bunch of reasons why people will unfriend me. One of them, the number one, like from high school or from childhood, the number one reason is they're Trumpers, right? Or they're like, they're Trumpy. So she unfriended me. I have no idea why. Her husband and I are still friends. That always happens too. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So she and I were friends in elementary school. But the funny thing is, so she's always been super popular. Always, and we were in the same Girl Scout troop, and I was always like the one that was friends with both sides because our Girl Scout troop was like split down the middle, and we were in the same Girl Scout troop for like, I don't know, 10 years or some shit. Maybe not 10 years, but like the whole time there was like the same group of girls, but they were like split. Half were like the popular girls at school and the other half were like the non-popular girls at school. And I used to go back and forth between them. And I look back now, it's like, yeah, obviously my people pleasing shit, right? Like I'm a social chameleon. I can fit in anywhere because it's like survival skills, as a child. I had to learn how to fit in everywhere. Like drugged in, can fit in here. Grandma's house can fit in here because it was just like how I survived. I was able to weave in and out. It's actually kind of a superpower now, but it's like a coping mechanism that I have to keep in check because I will change myself in order for you to like me at a drop of a hat if I didn't do all this work on myself. But so I was friends with both groups, but Nikki and I were really good friends. And every year for my birthday, I would go to Elitch's and invite two friends every year for a long time. Elitch's is the Six Flags in Denver. Oh man, one day I'll go to Denver in the summertime and maybe go to Elitch's because that place, I don't know. I have ridden roller coasters at this age and it's not the memory you remember, it's not the memory you remember. It's your body is very different at 39. Well, the last time I rode a roller coaster, I was like 35. Very different than when you were like, 22. Also, your mortality is intact now. Like, you're going to die at some point, or you also know, like, I could break my arm on this roller coaster. And like, I'm an adult now who has shit to do. So I don't have time to have a cast for 6 weeks and then rehabilitate my arm. Right. And so I don't know, whatever. What am I talking about? Oh, Elitch's. So I would go to 6 Elitch's every year for my birthday, and I was allowed to invite 2 friends, and I would invite Nikki and my dad's best friend, who were my godparents' son. These are the people who don't talk to me anymore because they think they never came out and said they think I killed my dad, but I really do think that they think that had I not cut him out of my life, he would have fought harder to live. You can't see my face right now unless you're watching on YouTube, but I'm literally rolling my eyes. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But I would invite those two, and then my mom would come too. Like, it's like I was in a meeting the other night, and ACA meeting. I was and this guy was talking about his childhood and how he doesn't remember a lot of it. And when I was working my steps, or as I work through recovery and therapy, I get asked some mundane questions about my childhood, and it used to be really frustrating for me because I don't remember a lot of it. Like I just don't. Um, and I would get so mad at myself and down on myself until I got into ACA, and it was just like most of the people in that program don't remember most of their childhoods either. So it was like, oh, I'm in good company. None of us remember our fucking childhoods. But a guy the other night in a meeting articulated it so well. He was like, I don't remember my childhood. Like, I don't remember my childhood was filled. I'm going to try and not fuck this up. He was like, my childhood was filled with really high highs and really, really low lows, like really dark, fucked up shit and some really cool shit. And so everything in between, I would just disassociate. Like, just like disassociation is like, just browning out, like browning out your mind, people use drugs, sex, food, TV. TV is my disassociation drug of choice. I'll just watch hours of television just to not feel, and that's something my dad taught me and I struggle with currently. Anytime I don't want to feel something, I just like will watch 12 hours of television because that is how I like brown out my mind. And I say brown out instead of blackout because you're not like drunk, but disassociation as a kid, you watch TV, you just daydream, you'd whatever. So like most of my childhood, I was spent disassociating, and then the high highs and the low lows, and it's never been articulated that way. And I'm like, oh, that's why I don't remember a lot of it. And that's like a lot of the work I do now on myself is not disassociation. And truthfully, most people do that. Like it's a coping mechanism. A lot of people, the blindly just like going, watching TikTok or Instagram or whatever for hours and hours. And they're like, it's balanced too, like, I don't think it's bad if you want to, like, you have a long day and you come home and all you want to do is just watch television, mindless TV. But to me, it's like once it becomes the habit, and I've been doing, and I'm if I'm obviously honest, I'm always honest on here where I'm at. I've been doing it a lot lately, a lot in the last month. Just like watching like hordes of TV, just because I'm just so anxious and sad. And I'm watching Modern Family right now, and that's a great show, by the way. But like, I'm watching like hordes of it, and I'm like, so I'm really working hard. In the last like week and a half or so, I've been really working hard to like be like, all right, these are, balance. You can watch TV and disassociate for like an hour, but like you can't do it for 12, girl. You got shit to do, disassociate when you're a billionaire and, 8,000 of your books. That's not that many books. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but that's a lot of people's drug of choice. And I'm in a program where we work on not doing that because it is a form of self-abandonment. You got to feel your feelings. Otherwise they pile up, and I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be okay. I know that this, yeah, well, that's the podcast, I was like, I know that this episode, I'm like, no, that's pretty much all the episodes. But that's, where I'm at. And And this weekend's funeral. As soon as I heard that that long lost cousin was coming, though, immediately in my brain popped in that Michael Jackson eating popcorn GIF. I don't know if it's GIF or GIF, um, but I I was like, oh, like my one cousin's like, oh, I just don't want to deal with this drama, and I'm like, is it bad that I sort of, well, I thrive, like I chaos is my where I'm at home at, and that's where I'm trying to change my life, is where I'm not at home in chaos. I'm at home in serenity and emotional sobriety, and that's what I've been working for, and every day for years. And it's difficult, but it's and so I my friend was recently at home uh at a visiting family for a wedding, and she had the best story about dropping the rope and not getting involved in shit. Um she has a big family with a bunch of cousins, the way I do, and I guess they have, like, I'm probably butchering this, but I'm paraphrasing, and the point of it is what I'll nail. She has a bunch of cousins, and they have all their, like, fights. I don't know, like, every family, I find all of us who have, like, family that lives, like, all in one state, but you live far away, you hear about all the weird rifts, and you're like, Jesus, you guys should, get a hobby, write a book, go on a hike. But she, like, that, I guess her family has, like, the cousins all have, like, they're divided down the middle, and she was in a room with some of them, and a bunch of them were trying to come into the room, and they were like, hey, hold the door so they can't come in, like, block the door so they can't come in. And my friend was like, oh, yeah, I'm holding a mimosa in this hand, and then this hand is free, so I can do whatever I want with it. I like having one free hand, so I'm going to go ahead and not blockade the door so other adults can't come into a room with another adults. And I was like, and she goes, I just was like, oh, no, thanks. And I'm like, that is so inspiring to me. And that little story is like, that is exactly what I want to do with my family. Is just no thanks. I was messaging with the Jehovah's Witnesses recently. The fires in Denver, I guess my mom lives really close to it, or the last location we all knew of where she was. It's such a weird sentence. It's such a weird experience to have the type of mother I have, because sometimes I feel so, like, apathetic about the whole thing, like, I've worked through it, and then other times it's really painful. And Eminem has this song. I think it's on the album Monster. Is that one of the songs? But it's called Headlights. And it's about his mom. And it is literally, if you get a second, listen to it. That's exactly how I feel about my mom. And it is like, you can't be in my life, but I want you to know I love you, and, like, how painful it is. And there's a line in it that's like, uh, Nate got taken away by the state, and that's when I realized how sick you were, and it was unfixable. And that's my mom, and it's painful. Sometimes it's really painful. Sometimes it's really just like, whatever. I mean, not whatever, but like, sometimes it's just like, well, that's just what the way it is. But the my aunts messaged me and asked me if I had heard from her, because I guess her last known location was near where all the big fires in Denver were. And I was like, no, I haven't heard from her. And I know that there's a shot that, like, something could happen to her, and I probably won't find out for years. I just, and that's just going to have to be okay. It's sad, I guess, but it's just going to have to be okay. And but, like, and I'm texting with one for a little bit, and it's great, and it's great, and it's great. And then it ends. And then the other, we're texting a little bit. And then I don't know what sparked something I said, but then she sent me a Jehovah's Witness video. And I'm like, are you incapable of not talking about this? Like, like, normal, I would be so mad and be like, I set a boundary that I don't want to fucking talk about your Jehovah's Witness. I don't want to talk about it. It's actually the worst part about you. Like, it's the only reason why we don't have a really solid relationship, because I think that religion is super fucking hateful, right? You can't claim to love a loving God and not like gay people. Period. Full stop. And so, but, like, the old Kim would have been mad and stewing, and I just saw it, and I was just like, oh, okay, well, that's where I get off now. I just stopped responding. I was like, well, I'm not gonna. And that's another family member was talking to me about another family member, and how this one person always, like, I'm being vague again, because I don't know, this is public, and I would like to steer from as much drama I mean, it's already going to be dramatic. I feel like maybe this weekend will be lovely. Expect the best and get it, man. Maybe it'll be lovely. Maybe Adrienne and I will go to Red Lobster. I'm going to text her this after this and be like, hey, maybe we can go to Red Lobster on Sunday before I leave. And she'll be like, gross. Why? And I'll be like, it's a nice night out in Denver. I think that's changed now. Denver is like a different city than when I grew up, right? And I grew up in the suburbs, so it's all very different now. So it's probably, but I don't have to. So one family member and my one cousin was like, yeah, that person does that to me all the time too, or used to do that to me all the time, and now and for years, every time they would do that, I would just get up and go, all right, this is where I'm gonna stop talking, and I would just walk away. I'd go to the bathroom. I'd whatever. And she goes, now they don't do that to me anymore. Now they treat me with respect. And I'm like, yeah, I usually engage and I'm done. I'm like I said last week, just like maybe the theme of 2022 is sexual revolution and dropping the rope, because I am just not going to engage in bullshit anymore. I just am not. They say that the last year of each decade, so the nines are always the most productive year for people, because they start to like realize, oh fuck, I'm about to be 40. Oh fuck, I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be 30. And this is like, in 5 months from yesterday, I'll be 40 years old, and I am 40 years old is too old to be fucking engaging in this sort of drama. And I got too much going on, and I also have my own shit I gotta mourn. I gotta mourn this this uncle of mine. He was just a very funny person. He was just a funny, sweet man. And I am just sad. And I think going home is going to be really sad. I hadn't been home really since my aunt died. When I went back in October, I hadn't been home since 2018. And when I walked up to their house, which was like the house I grew up in, it was like, oh, this is rough. This is hard. Amy's not here. Amy's not here. And it was really emotional walking into that house, because like that whole house is a ghost of hers, And now that house is going to be a ghost of both of them. And it's just really fucking heartbreaking, man. This one is going to take a while. And I am learning who I can ask for support on this. Like I said, I went to a family member about me wanting to run for office, and they were really shitty about it. And that's inner drugstore shit. That's going to the hardware store looking for milk. And, in this grief I'm going through right now, I am actively working on not going to the hardware store for milk, because that is my default, getting support from unavailable people. And it's painful. And I'm already in enough pain, and so I'm really leaning on people that are, that are supportive and are there and understand grief is not linear, and this is a rough one, man. And I'm kind of grateful that the long lost cousin is coming, because now my aunt is going to go stay somewhere else, and my aunt and I were going to stay in my aunt and uncle's house, Amy and Steve's house. And I was really excited, because I was going to be able to, hang out a bunch with my aunt, the one that, encouraged me to go back to my dad. She's fucking lovely. And I was excited to have all this like extra time with her, but because my cousin won't be staying there, I looked at Adrienne and I was like, I don't really want to stay at Steve and Amy's by myself. And she's like, oh, I wouldn't do that to you. I'm like, not only is that house big as fuck, I don't like, I would be afraid. Like, I don't like I don't like a bunch of rooms that I can't comfortably walk in and see all of them at once. I don't like a bunch of rooms. Like, I will never be able to live in a mansion unless I have a husband and we have like 5 people living in there with us. Cause like, alone, I'll never be able to live in one alone, just cause like, I don't like a place where you can't walk to every room and someone can like sneak behind you. And so I was like, oh, I don't really want to stay in that big house by myself. Also, Lakewood, I hear, is getting a little rough, like neighborhood wise, like a lot of crimes going down. And also like my dead not parents' house, like it's just alone. And thank God, Adrienne was like, God, I wouldn't do that to you. You're staying with me now. And I'm like, oh, thank God. So I'm sure there will be so many more. I before I wrap up, I have one more story. So when I went to San Diego, this is just a funny story, and then I'll try and tell a poop story. I have one poop story. I don't know if I ever told you guys this one. Maybe we should call that episode. I don't know if I've ever. No, I'm already calling it "Have a Safe Flight, Asshole," which is hilarious. So to me. It might be like blocked. I'm also going to do another middle finger one because I really love that photo. Maybe. I don't know. Now I'm just spitballing outside my head. So when I went to San Diego, so my buddy Ollie has two dogs, and they're both like rescue dogs, like real rescue dogs, not like, oh, I went to the pound and like their owners just didn't like them, so they got rid of them. Those are rescue dogs too, don't get me wrong, but these were like, one of them I think he got from Mexico, and she was just like, she'd been pregnant like 18 times and was like bred for like fighting dogs. Like, I mean, just like a really rough, like scared of everybody. And I've heard about her for years, right? They've had her for a bunch of years. And Ali calls her his soulmate. And he's like, my wife knows where she stands. And it is really funny. If you see a picture of the four of them, he's like in the corner, like looking into the dog's eyes. And then the other two are like, hi, we're here too. It's very funny. And so and then they got another one who's a rescue dog, I believe, from China. And I believe that she was one. I think I'm misquoting. I don't know enough about it to talk about it educatedly. But she was like in cages for years. But the one dog barked at me for like a solid like 6 hours, and then after a while we became buddies. And she laid next to me, and we were cuddling. And then they went to get me another drink, and I thought it was a good idea to kiss her on the mouth, and she bit me. And they were like, oh my God, we're really sorry. And I was like, no, that's on me. Like, I knew that this dog was finicky. What planet did I think it would be okay to like put your face in another dog's face that is already finicky? And it's fine. I have a little bruise on my nose, but I'm fine, right? And they were telling me that like they know people whose like family members have sued them when their dog, like they tripped over a dog. And I'm like, that is so fucked up. I would never, unless they were like, yeah, sue us, we have insurance because I lost my nose or some shit. You know what I mean? I don't know, whatever. I just thought that was wild. But it reminded me, I was bit by a lot of dogs as a child. And it's because of that. Like, I don't have boundaries with animals. Like, I do, like, where if I see an animal that I like, someone I don't know, I ask if I can pet them. Like, I know that those rules, right? Never pet someone's animal without asking them because you don't know their story. But my friends' animals, we get comfortable, and then I'm like, oh, like there was a 3-legged pit bull. So the funny thing, okay, when I was a kid, I got bit by a ton of dogs, right? Not a ton, but like 5. That's quite a bit. Every time I got bit by these dogs, my cousin Adrienne was with me, and as a result, she became scared of dogs. I was never scared. Obviously, I'm 39 and I still haven't learned my lesson. I got bit by a dog last week. And again, I know every time I say that, I feel like people think, why don't dogs like you, you sketchy fuck? No, they like me. I just like take it too far, right? Like, I'm like, oh my God, we're pals. Can we make out? And they're like, no, I'm an animal. What are you doing? I'm a skittish animal. But like Adrienne now isn't afraid of dogs, but we always joke that for so long she was like really scared of dogs because she kept witnessing me get bit by them. A couple years ago, I have a buddy who had a 3-legged pit bull, and I can't for the fucking life of me, Rufio, that's what its name was. I was like, what was that dog's name? 3-legged pit bull, or big ass dog, right? And he was a rescue dog, and my buddy was constantly like, just don't put your face in his face. He's so loving, and he'd have to tell me that all the time because as soon as Rufio and I got close, I would be like, hi, buddy. He's like, stop putting your face in his face, and I'm like, oh. He's like, he will bite you. He's a rescue. He's skittish. He was beat severely as a puppy. And I'm like, got it. So one night I was over there, and I'm over there, and what am I talking about? I'm over there, and my buddy goes into the bathroom, or my buddy gets a drink or something like that. And Rufio and I went in again without anybody telling me not to go in. Like, no one was there to be like, stop. So I go in, and he bites me on the lip, and I'm bleeding, and I run into the bathroom. My buddy's like, did he bite you? And I'm like, no. And he's like, he bit you. And I was like, don't worry about it. Don't get him in trouble. It was my fault. But so the funny thing is, and that's, whatever. But the funny thing is right. It was like really convenient because, and this is, I'm going to admit it because I realized that, like, I don't know, like 80% of the population has these, and 80% and 100% of the population is like ashamed and grossed out by them, even though it is like completely normal. I had a I had a cold sore. I, on occasion, get cold sores. I'm going to say once every year, maybe once every couple of years. I got one while I had COVID. Before that, I hadn't had one in like 2 years. I'm ashamed of this, as everyone with cold sores is, but I'm trying. We shouldn't be. I don't know how I got cold sores. I didn't have them until I was told that they were dormant. I was told by a doctor that it was like I had it from when I was a kid, but I was like, well, I never get cold sores, and he was like, sometimes they're just dormant. And then I was put under for the first time, and my doctor was like, oh, this may trigger a cold sore. Do you get those? And I was like, no. And he's like, okay. And then I got one. And he goes, oh, well, it was dormant. That's why. So, but it shouldn't be shameful. And I only get it when I'm really stressed out or really, really sick, right? That's it. But so luckily, so I got bit by this dog on top of a cold sore. And I had a brand new job, a brand new bartending job with a bunch of hot people, hot dudes, one hot dude that I still, he has like a lovely girlfriend and shit. But every time I see him, I'm like, man, you're just a hot dude. And he was like the reason I showered when I went into this job because he was just so hot. And I thank God got bit by this dog because while the bite was healing, the cold sore was healing, and I was able to just blame the bite on the dog. I think 40% of the people didn't believe me. They were like, no, it looks like a cold sore. I'm like, no, I got bit by a dog. See the cut? I don't, that is one of my like shames, but it shouldn't be because so many people. I just remember when I went into college, my RA got really, really bad cold sores, and they were like both of her lips all the way up and down. Like, what a nightmare. Like, such a, like, that is, and I don't know, this was a while ago, so I don't know if there's medication because my doctor years ago, when I was like, hey, I get these sometimes, he was like, all right, so do you get them enough to take a daily pill, or do you get them so rarely that you could just like have a pill that will knock them out as soon as you get them? I was like, I get them so rarely that I can do that. But there's people that like get them so often that they have to take a pill every day. And I think about that woman all the time. Like, why didn't she get that pill? Who knows? There's layers and layers of reasons why. Healthcare, maybe, whatever. But I always think about everyone was so mean about her cold sores. And she was just like, yeah, I got cold sores. And it was just like, ew, bye. So I am admitting this here. I don't know. It's a deep shame of mine. It's a deep shame of everyone I know who has them. And I have so many friends that get them, and they're like, "Oh my god, I like don't leave my house because we're all so or there's a couple of tricks. I now have it down to a science, thank God, because I do have a lot of friends that have cold sores. We all like there's a science to get rid of them. You've got to take Valtrex or you got to take whatever pill you have. I did not think I would be ending this in a cold sore tutorial. Jesus, but here we are. You got to take that and then ice, baby. And then there's like a lysine. I take L-lysine every day, but that's good for collagen and shit too. But like, I don't know. I'm just trying to normalize this, just normalize something that is normal that a lot of people have, and they're a nightmare, and it's gross and it's shameful, and it happens. Fucking happens. I would always get it right before I went back to Denver too. Like every time I went to Denver, I would just get this massive cold sore because I would have just a horrible, and they would happen like right as I was like packing because I would have a complete meltdown about whatever monstrosity my dad was pulling at the time, wild. But yeah, so thank God for that dog biting me because at least 60% of my new job, who was just it was just a restaurant full of some of the prettiest people I had ever met in my life. They were all like, oh, that sucks. Yeah, that's gross. I'm like, yeah, it's a dog bite. It's a dog bite. And you know what? If I ever got a cold sore again, I would just lie and say it was a dog bite. So you can have that if you want. Please don't judge me. Oh, all right. That's the episode, everybody. Poop scoop booty. So when I was in junior high, also please send me your poop scoops. Please send them to me. Oh, the guy, the wild horses guy, he's reading my book now, and he's like, oh my God, the sharding chapter. He was like, that's a bold move. I'm like, did you laugh? He's like, I laughed, but then I immediately got sick. He's like, you were very visceral. I'm like, well, buckle up. The whole book is kind of like that. You're going to learn a lot about me. Good thing we're not sleeping together anymore. So you're not grossed out by me, I guess. But so when I was in 7th grade, I was like, hey, I had this babysitter, Michelle, who used to stay the night when my dad was out of town. He was out of town a lot. And she would stay the night and she'd sleep in his bed. And I think about that once a week. because like that guy didn't wash his sheets very often. And I know he probably masturbated all the time. Sorry, that's way too much. And he slept naked too. I don't know. I think about it a lot and I should probably just let it go. Right. But so she would stay the night. And so I remember I was in 7th grade and I was like the best kind of unpopular in 7th and 8th grade, like where, like there's like two types of unpopular, the one that everyone knows and like, so like you get picked on or whatever, or like you don't fly under the radar. And then there's an unpopular where you fly under the radar. In 7th and 8th grade, I was the unpopular that flew under the radar and it was magical. My friends and I peed our pants all the time. No one knows. Maybe they didn't. We used to draw dicks on the back. I loved 7th and 8th grade. The peeing the pants I probably could have gone without, but it's pretty funny now. We played dolls. But so I was like, I'm really gassy. I have this like terrible gas. And and Michelle, my babysitter, was like, I found this X-Lax. Well, I was like, I found this X-Lax. What was it called? Correctol, the ones that were like pink, that like the pink ones that like, tasted kind of like candy. There's this guy named Zed or Jed. I think it was Jed. Jed got expelled from junior high because he dyed those and then sold them as M&Ms. And then like he got expelled for that. That was the rumor. Because now I look back, I'm like, who bought those? Who on earth would buy M&Ms from Jed of all people? And he like sketchy, like color, like those people are idiots. They deserve to take a bunch of laxatives. You know what I mean? But so I had this Correctol and I was like, hey, Michelle, will this help? What does this do? Will it help me with my gas? And she's like, well, it'll make you shit. Now I feel like she should have given me more information, right? Like truthfully, she was like 17 or 18. So she wasn't that much older than me, but to me, she was eons ahead of me. And she knew it would make me shit. She should have said something like, it'll make you shit, but it'll make you like pitch a tent, maybe like by pitch a tent. I mean, we used to always say that when like you had to poop a lot, my dad and I would be like, well, I got to pitch a tent on the toilet because like, like set up a campsite because I'm going to be there a while. And so like, so I say it now too, and people know, no one knows what I mean, but I was like, you gotta, she should have said it's going to be an emergency as soon as you have to poop and you're not going to be able to leave the toilet for a while. Instead, she's like, oh, it'll make you poop. And I was like, oh, great. So I took 3 thinking, awesome. I haven't pooped in a while. And maybe this will get rid of the gas. So I went to school and I sharted. That's my first memory of sharting. I thought it was a fart. And then I went to the bathroom and I pulled down my pants and I was like, oh no, I pooped my pants. And I remember being like, I don't know what to do. I pee my pants all the time, but this is like a whole other game, right? It's a whole other ball game. I know I like wiped them out. I think I threw away. I think that might have been my first time going commando ever. I feel like I kept them on because I wanted to, just in case it happened again, have something to catch it. So gross. And now I wonder, like, I got through the day. No, I mean, I wasn't very popular. I only had Stephanie and Aspen as my friends and Kira and Becca too, but they were like there sort of because they had no other options, I think. And so I don't know. I went through the day and I wonder if I was like the stinky kid for a while. I wonder if people were like, Kim Kral smells like shit. Because you can't walk around through the day with poopy pants and not smell bad, right? I don't know. We were in junior high. So that's your poop scoop. I know that might have brought up more questions than answers, but that's where we're at. If you have a poop scoop, please send it to me at kimcrawlspace@gmail.com. No one is sending them to me anymore. You guys were doing a really good job and then you stopped. Send them to me. Don't make me take another picture of myself on the toilet because I will. I probably will anyway. And why I'm one lucky broad. I already said it. I'm one lucky broad, man, that I have family that is friends that are like family here. I'm one lucky broad that I have boundaries. I am one lucky broad that I continue to fucking grow. That's 3, but it's just been a week of like just really looking at the shit I got to be grateful for. Because that's what you do when you're having a tough time. You sort of double down on, the tough shit. So I'm grateful. I'm one lucky broad. I'm showing up for myself in this tough time. I'm fucking showing up for myself. So stay tuned. If you want to hear the sexual revolution, I have a new podcast. It's like a sub podcast. I don't know. It's on Patreon exclusive. It's once a month. I put out the episode. It's once a month on the 15th. I put out the other day. Then I also have another one with Jeff May. It's a really fun, it's once a month, Patreon exclusive. And then also you get a bunch of little fun stuff in the mail, hopefully soon. I know you're all waiting for that. I promise it'll come. It'll come. It'll come. It'll come. I'm still waiting for this one mailer thing. It's I don't know. The mail's a mess now. I don't know. Nothing matters. The world's going to implode soon. But I would love it if you join that. That would really mean a lot to me. And I have a book, if you don't already know, Confessions of a Recovering Party Girl. Buy my book. You can buy it at kimkral.com if you want a signed copy. I'm sending out a few by tomorrow. So before I go to Denver, move to Denver. Ooh, that's my biggest fear. But if you want to do that, or you can just go to amazon.com. Confessions of a Recovering Party Girl. If you get a second, leave this a review, rating, and all that good stuff. And thanks, guys, again for being here. I always feel awesome after I leave this closet. I don't know what that means. Be safe, be kind. Be safe, be kind, and talk to you soon. Bye.